Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What was the closest you have ever been to death? Serious. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Haul truck ran an intersection and nearly ran me over. I speed up and swerved between him and another oncoming haul truck to avoid collision. A safety supervisor witnessed all of it and had me and the idiot in the truck stop at a camp and proceeded to chew him out for nearly killing me. Car accident on the freeway when I was 12. My mom popped a tire, lost control of the vehicle, and ended up spinning around to a dead stop facing oncoming traffic. A giant trailer was headed right for us. We got so lucky, he saw the whole thing unfold, so he had already slowed down and was able to stop. Sometimes a tight squeeze is exactly what we need. Slipped on a steep hill with 100 pounds of cable around my neck and chest. One end caught between some rocks and the cable started tightening around me. While I was sliding down the hill into a river ravine, I couldn't grab onto anything, then saw the edge of the cliff coming up quick. Fortunately, the cable stopped tightening before it got to my throat, and that ended up saving me from going off the cliff. Almost stepped on a Mojave rattlesnake when we were miles from civilization and nowhere near a road. I was a child at the time, and it was before everyone carried cell phones, so if I got bit, I would have been in serious trouble. That's one of the deadliest snakes in America. The snake was nestled in some big rocks that made a little hole in the ground. I was going to step in there because it looked cool, but right before I did, I had a sixth sense sort of feeling that I shouldn't. I trusted my gut and really examined the area in front of me. It took me a while, but I eventually spotted a little baby Mojave rattler right where I was going to step. One of the few times I've experienced my instincts protecting me like that. Kinda cool, actually. It almost feels like a superpower when it happens. Late teens, headed to school by train. I was feeling like shit that morning and even puked halfway to the train, but shrugged it off. As I was standing on the platform waiting for the train, I was hoping it'd get better once I sat down on the train. A couple of minutes later, when the train arrived, I waited until the train stopped and walked towards it. I blink and I'm suddenly on my back on the platform with a circle of people around me and a police officer asking me if I can tell her what weekday it is. Turns out I had fainted walking towards the train and fell down on the track behind the train. A passerby pulled me back up on the platform. Had I positioned myself near the tracks a few seconds earlier like I normally do, I would have fallen in front of the train. Instead, I got a mild concussion and a scar on my chin from the fall. My brother shot an arrow at me. I think it was like my 13th or 14th birthday. My friends and I had an archery target set up, and we were shooting a compound bow. Great time. Later that day, I was running outside, and I looked to the side and saw my brother about 30 feet, 10 meters away, pointing the bow at me. I saw him let go of the string, the arrow flying, I ducked, and I felt the wind from it going over my head. Like, that whole scene is still in slow motion in my head. On the bright side, I can officially say I've dodged an arrow. When I was at the height of my depression and self-harming probably every other day, there was one day where I was alone and I was extremely in my feels, sitting on my bathroom floor and crying, and I started cutting and then disassociated hard. When I came back, I was still sitting on my floor but was covered in cuts on my arms and legs. It was brutal and so scary, and no matter what I tried, they just kept bleeding. I was absolutely sure I was going to die that night, not intentionally though. It was terrifying and was definitely the beginning of me trying to get it under control, at least so that I wouldn't get that close again. It took a while, probably over half a year, but that September, I stopped, and it's been 3 years since I self-harmed. I am really glad I survived that period of my life. I met and fell in love with my husband not long after I stopped, and I am so incredibly blessed and happy to be here still, and I'm excited for the life I get to share with him. Sometimes it's not just the assumed risks of war that can be the most dangerous. I was in Iraq, and I thought I just backed up from the fortified peanut butter. It got worse, so I went to the medic. Next thing I know, they're flying me to Kuwait. I effed up real bad and caught some crazy parasite from eating ice off the local economy. The doctor said I would have died if that medic hadn't got me out of Dodge. Mortar fire, small arms fire on a daily basis, and I almost get taken out by a parasite eating a hole in my colon. My appendix ruptured while I was lying in a hospital bed trying to convince the doctors that I really was in pain. They assumed I was pregnant and just lying about it. They took blood, pee, and did a pelvic exam, which made me throw up because it hurt so bad to move my torso, let alone put my feet up in stirrups. All negative. They still didn't believe me that I wasn't even sexually active at the time. Anyway, I have a very hazy memory of talking to my mom and telling her that it was okay. Soon it wouldn't hurt anymore. I was just gonna sleep for a bit. She flipped and happened to work at that hospital, so she got them to do an ultrasound to find this phantom pregnancy. One terrified look from a tech later, I was booked for surgery and finally got a morphine drip after almost 14 hours in the ER. I had neurosurgery in 2015. In the recovery room, in an effort to control my pain as I woke up, the staff, doctor or nurse I don't know, accidentally gave me an overdose of narcotics. They lost all my vital signs and had a difficult time bringing me back. When I woke up, I was in torturous pain, and I asked why. I was told I had an allergic reaction to narcotics and would be given only Tylenol for the duration of my recovery. During my hospital stay, I was in so much pain I was hallucinating, and sometimes I lost consciousness from the pain. Later, I found out the truth, and I am definitely not allergic to narcotics, by the way, but I am legitimately allergic to codeine, so I couldn't even take that. This was probably the most clear-cut shit we almost died incident in my life, or maybe it's that it was pretty recent. Last summer my boyfriend and I and some friends were going camping. We had a certain free spot we liked a lot and its awesome swimming hole right where a creek and a river meet. We got there and saw someone there already and decided to drive back a bit to see if there were any actually empty spots. No luck. Figured we would head back to our original spot and talk to the people there. It was early, and maybe they were planning on leaving later in the day. We're heading down this 2-lane highway. Our left turn is coming up. Me, my boyfriend, and our 2 dogs are in my car with my boyfriend driving. Our friend's in another car behind us. Boyfriend turns on his blinker and comes to a stop to wait for oncoming traffic to pass. I'm looking at a map of the area to see if there are other potential free camping areas near water, since it's hot as F out and we wanted to swim. Suddenly, I hear him go, "Yo, what the?" And he cuts the wheel to the right and floors it to get off the road as quickly as possible. I look up confused and concerned as a pickup truck towing a huge RV flies right by us, right through where we just were, going like 70 miles per hour or so. Cue me also going, "Dude, what the?" The truck missed us by probably a couple of feet. I guess that driver wasn't paying attention and didn't notice my car stopped getting ready to make a turn. Behind the pickup was our car of friends who saw the whole thing and pulled up beside us as we all sat there horrified for a minute and watching the truck continue down the road. If he hadn't noticed the truck behind us, my car would have been completely obliterated, me and him and our dogs along with it. The happy ending is that the people at our camping spot were indeed planning on leaving, and we all had the area to ourselves and got properly shit-faced and cooled off in the river all day, thankful to be alive. TL, DR. Driving is effing scary. Other distracted drivers could end you in a second. Pay attention. I was a young teen, 13, 14 at most. I went to my friend's house and stayed the night. They lived on a farm. In the morning on Saturday, I went and got a bowl of cereal and was going to watch cartoons and plopped down next to my friend on the couch. The guard dog, whose job was to kill coyotes attacking the livestock, thought I was a threat to my friend and attacked. It went for my throat. The only thing that saved me was that it was minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside, so I was wearing a big down jacket. That dog clamped down on my raised arm and tossed me around like a rag doll. Thankfully, all I have are 2 small puncture marks where the dog got through my armor. I'm terrified of dogs to this day. One time in high school, a friend and I got a hold of a can of Glade air freshener. Having heard that aerosol can get one high, we decided to huff it. This was a grave mistake. We had no experience huffing anything before, so we didn't know how much was enough. I had my couple of rips off the can, covered with a washcloth to filter out the liquid. I sat down because I started to feel lightheaded, and I started to feel a sense of impending doom. A few seconds go by, and the whole world, or perhaps my own consciousness, started flashing rapidly like a strobe light. I was pretty sure I was about to die. I passed out eventually and woke up in a pool of my own vomit after falling on the couch and onto the floor. I couldn't move, and all I could do was groan in agony. My friend hadn't taken the amount I had, and he was panicking, watching me and thinking I was going to die. He did not call for an ambulance because he was afraid of what would happen. It took the better part of half an hour to recover enough to get back upright. I'm pretty sure if I had taken in just a bit more, I would have died right there. I ran a red left turn arrow right in front of a Chevy 2500 doing close to 60 miles per hour. I was already stopped at the light and had been waiting for it to turn green. It was later in the day, and the sun was positioned directly behind the light. 16-year-old me looked up and said, "Yeah, that's probably green." No, it wasn't. Anyway, I got T-boned right where the front and rear doors meet the passenger side. The part of the frame that separates the doors got pushed all the way to the center console, which I smacked my head against. I just remember waking up in a daze with a lot of blood on the right side of my face. Fast forward through the call to my mom and the ambulance ride. Doctor showed me a scan and said several fragments of my skull were a piece of paper thickness away from entering my brain. The worst part is I was supposed to be taking my sister with me. She was taking her sweet time at home, so I left without her. Things not to say to any mother. This last sentence. Postpartum infection. It came on so quickly that I didn't even recognize the warning signs. You would think a life-threatening infection would be the most traumatic aspect, but it was actually the medical professional's treatment of me, FYI. Something not to say to a new mother with a 10-day-old baby in her arms. You're not going to be a very good mother when you're dead. Oh. I had a large DVT, blood clot in my leg, and had been getting PEs, pulmonary embolisms, blood clots in lungs for months without knowing about either. Had a COVID infection that caused blood clotting issues. I went roughly 7 to 8 months with the clot growing in my leg and pieces breaking off and hitting my lungs before I was diagnosed with the damn thing in November of 2020. Found out I have a blood clotting gene disorder, but at least I found out before it managed to kill me. The ER doctor told me that I had the blood clot in my leg, told me I was damn lucky. My primary care doctor apologized to me for missing it after I had COVID. My hematologist told me that I should be dead, and my vascular surgeon told me even with being on blood thinner the rest of my life now, a clot will probably be what kills me in the end. I had no idea that I am factor V heterozygous. They do not normally test for this disorder. I thought the pain in my knee was a slightly torn meniscus, since I had been building a shed, running, and weightlifting. I had no signs of a DVT, no swelling, heat, or discoloration. I took myself to the ER after getting on the floor to play with our dog and thinking I had torn a muscle. 2 days later, I couldn't walk without crying. It hurt so badly.